Congratulations, you're in your 20s. You got this life full of freedom and hope and possibilities available. And some people even say that your 30s are your new 20s, which we know is not the case, right? Your 20s is your 20s. It's awesome. But, as life goes on, you realize, financially speaking, you have a great opportunity right now to make your life amazing. So I want to talk about how can you actually create more passive income right now in your 20s. And by the way, secret here, it's not stuffing your money in that crappy company 401k they keep trying to convince you and sell you to do, right? This is actually what I'll show you. So here are just a few ideas that helps you create more passive income in your life right now. All right, number one is you can actually start a side hustle or a business right now to build up your income today. One of the most powerful things you can do right now is build your income so you have more money to put away, more money to save, so then you create more passive income with that money. I had two examples of clients, right? One of them was in their 50s, well-established, had a good amount of savings saved up that they were looking to put to use. They were doing pretty well. They had a lot of potential. But I also had this other client that was in his late 20s. And he actually was had a nice office. He was a chiropractor in New York City, in Manhattan to be specific. And this guy on Coeur, I'll tell you, man, this guy was a baller, right? He wanted it. Now, he was only bringing home $60,000 a year, which in Manhattan is like living in poverty. You're almost homeless, right? And so he was doing it, but he was barely pulling off any income for himself. But I knew just from seeing the drive and the fire that he had in him, that this guy had potential to beat even that client in their 50s. And so I focused him on really driving that income and doing that specifically within his own practice, his own business. And as they did so, 3 years later, guys, he's making $300,000 a year instead of $60,000. He quintupled his income. And what does he think that means as a result? That allowed him to have more money to put away. And in fact, after those 3 years, he was further ahead financially than that couple in their 50s. See, that's the thing, guys. Yes, having more money right off the bat does give you a little bit of a leg up, but it's not everything. The best thing you can possibly do if you want to create more financial freedom right now, especially in your 20s, is while you've got the energy and that drive, use that to your advantage. Because I'll tell you, when people start getting to their 40s, like myself, or in your 50s, you don't really want to hustle and do as much work as possible, right? But in my 20s, I knew I was hungry, I wanted more, like the sky was the limit. And that's the same for you as well. Find ways to create that side hustle or that extra business, or even just make that business your business, right? Where you can drive up your income. There's that limitless ceiling, right? That limitless potential you can create, as opposed to a job, a W-2 job, where they're gonna kind of cap you out of what you can make there. So find ways to generate more income with that business, so then you have more money to put away in savings. Okay, now as you do this, many people will say, okay, Chris, I got a few extra $1,000 now, or I got $10,000, $20,000, $50,000. What do I do with it? My answer is going to be simply this: don't do anything, right? At least in the sense of trying to invest it for passive income. I think if you don't have at least $100,000 just sitting around beyond your emergency savings account, if you don't have at least that much, then don't even worry about that question right now. You just focus on building your savings. And I know this is the long, slow, patient way, which is really hard to do. But I can promise you that if you are patient and if you are really working on trying to build that savings, you'll get this kind of flywheel concept, as they call it, right? If you've ever ridden a bicycle, when you start to pedal, it's really hard to get it pedaling. But then as you start to get that momentum, it gets easier and easier. And pretty soon you're pedaling just nice and easy, but you get this nice speed, right? That's what's gonna feel like in your 20s, especially as you're building your savings. Be okay with pedaling a little harder now so to make it easier later. So to give you an example, one thing you need to have before you even worry about investing is a solid emergency fund. You need to make sure you have at least 6 months of your expenses set aside that you do not touch. You do not try to invest it. You don't do anything with it. And no, this does not mean it's your 401k, because a 401k is not an emergency fund. That is a place that locks your money away forever until you're in your 60s. And let's be honest, that's not a good, safe place to put an emergency fund, right? You need money available in cash that you can get to. So start to put that money away. Now, you can do more than just putting in a 0.nothing% savings account. There are high yield savings accounts that could pay you 3, 4, maybe even 5% that are being offered right now. You could be doing that. Or another strategy that I teach a lot about on this channel, you'll see as well here on Money Ripples. By the way, check out more videos, like and subscribe us. But you'll see some other videos here too, talking about infinite banking. Now, if you're in your 20s, infinite banking rocks, right? Like the younger you are, the better return you get on the savings. This is like really a tax-free supercharged savings account, right? It's using a life insurance policy, but it allows you to do it aside from just having life insurance, right? Aside from just having a death benefit, there's this tax-free savings account inside of it that grows tax-free and comes out tax-free. It's kind of like a Roth IRA, but you got a little bit more freedom and ways to use it. And it's a better emergency fund because you can actually access that cash right away. So give you an example. My wife, she was saying, Chris, I want $400,000 that you don't touch. I know that seems like a lot, but we've got 1 million kids. We got like a small village of 8 children. We got to have a lot of cash on the side that helps us feel safe. She wanted a 1-year supply of money. So we said, let's just round up to 400,000. Well, 400,000 sitting in my bank earning 0.1% at my credit union is not very sexy, is it? That's $400 a year, and then I get taxed on that $400 a year. So I walk away with what, $300 a year if I'm lucky? Plus I'm filing another tax form to my accountant. That's not fun. But what is fun is I said, let's earmark, because we're already building cash inside of our infinite banking or whole life insurance policies. I said, what is fun is, what if we earmark 300,000 of that over here, earning 5+% tax-free, as opposed to a savings account that even if I earn 5%, I still have to pay taxes on it. This is tax-free money at 5+%. That's $15,000 a year. I can still keep $100,000 in my bank, even some of it in high yield savings accounts, and make money there as well. I make a lot more money and I have one less tax to deal with, right? So that's a great strategy to use, especially if you're looking for ways to create more leverage with your cash while you're building it. And as you start to build it more and more, once you get into 6 figures, now we start talking about passive income. All right, so as I mentioned, this is where we start to focus on passive income. When you get over 100,000 or so, and I recommend 100,000 to 150,000 at least, just so you can have some diversification. So you're not just trying to throw all your eggs in that one basket, hoping and praying that that one strategy works. It's nice when you can at least put in 2 or 3 different places just to kind of broaden your investing, right? So build that savings. Like I said, use your infinite banking policies and your savings accounts and things like that to build up over 100,000. And when you get there, now we start to get more educated and research on what are these passive investments. Also, on our YouTube channel, you'll see a lot more on this very topic if you want to know what strategies you could actually be doing. But let's get back to this. Why do we want passive income? Because I'll promise you this, and you probably have already figured this out too, life may not be exactly what you were thinking it was. Heck, even from the time you went to college till now, you probably realize, my life took a different turn. Like I'm doing a different type of profession I was initially intending on. And that's normal. And just so you know, your life will probably be different in your 30s and 40s than they are in your 20s. Life can take curves. It can take different directions. And that's perfect. That's okay. But what helps those transitions is knowing you have income coming in even if you're not working. That's very important. And when I talk about passive income, I don't mean going and just having that business, right? Like that business is great, but that's an active income. I mean where your money works harder for you so you don't have to work so hard for it. That's the key. And so, give you an example. I had one client, he was actually in his 20s, David, and David said, all right, I've got a plan. And so he started building up his infinite banking policies and building up some cash in there, and that was doing really well, but he also had some cash on the side. And so he started buying rental properties. Now, he would just buy 1 a year. That was his whole plan, is just drop about $20,000 or so as a down payment once a year. And so he's building up that cash, trying to save it. Again, remember, having that extra income, that extra cash to save and put away is the accelerant, right? That's like pouring that gasoline on the fire, like that's the thing that makes it build and grow. And so he's putting away like 25 grand a year right now, which by the way, some people lock it up in their 401ks, but he's not doing that. He's throwing that 25 grand into his investments, right? He's throwing into that to buy those properties. Now, as he buys that property, it generates usually about a few $100 or so a month. His whole goal is to get to $5,000 a month by the time he's 30. So he's been doing that little by little, step by step. Really, it was about an 8-year plan for himself. And guys, guess what? He's on track. Now he's getting to his late 20s. He's actually on track to hit this. Now, when I looked at his numbers, I said, well, you're almost there, but it looks like you're a little short. You're only getting about $4,000 a month on these rentals. You need $5,000 a month. He says, well, Chris, you forgot. We have the life insurance. And the life insurance, by the way, that cash you can actually pull out tax-free. There is no 59 and a half age rule. I can pull that out when I'm 30 years old, like it's retirement income, and get tax-free money from that. So guess what? He had it right on the button. He was at $1,000 a month coming from his infinite banking policy, another $4,000 a month coming from his rentals. He's hitting $5,000 a month, which is what's required for him to be financially independent at the age of 30. Guys, I'll tell you, there are so many people that come to me saying in their 50s and 60s, I wish I knew this in my 20s and 30s. You are here right now learning the stuff that they never learned about, that even though they were able to retire a little bit sooner, maybe they retired by their 50s, you guys have the potential. You could be doing it by your 30s. And some of you, if you've already been amazing savers, might even be able to do it by your 20s. And imagine that kind of freedom. It doesn't mean you quit working, by the way. This means you're work optional. You work because you want to, not because you have to. And by the way, when you go to work, when you don't have to go to work, it's a whole new experience, right? Like life is so much more awesome. It means you can take time off and say, great, I don't need the job. I'm doing it because I need something to keep my time filled, or maybe I follow that passion project or something I feel like is more socially connecting with the world and the community and helps people out. You can do all those things because you have that passive income. So guys, that's why I recommend step by step is 1, build up your income as much as you can, even if it means getting a side business to help build it up faster. 2, build up your emergency fund, not just in savings accounts or high yield savings accounts, but also with infinite banking. And then 3, after you get over 100 grand or so, start investing for passive income so you have more money coming in, so then you don't have to work so hard for that money. Now, I already mentioned several times, if you haven't done so already, like and subscribe on this video. And in fact, follow it, check it out. There's other videos we're talking about this passive income and infinite banking. Go down the rabbit hole on our Money Ripples channel to find more about that right now.